All right, doing part 9 now of our empty offense series, talking about game planning. And looking forward to this section. I really think that the practice planning, the game planning, the self scouting are really things that that you can take with you. So even if you purchase this and you're watching it and you're not, you don't run our exact offense, or you know, um, you don't agree with every play or formation or whatever, what we're talking about on how we practice, how we structure the techniques for the positions, the game planning, and the self-scouting is really true for everywhere. And that's why we made this a 10-part course. And it's why 4 of the 10 parts really have focused on non-specific empty stuff, just how we did it. So the section on the rules on by the positions, the practice planning, now we'll do game planning, the next will be self-scout, are really designed to help you no matter what you run. So I really hope it does. And this is another one of those times where it's exciting to talk about. So when we talk about game planning, we're talking about the game just ended from last week. Now we got to play next week. What do we do? And that's kind of where we are. So game planning, practice, and self-scout, the last 3 sessions of this, really all go together. It's hard to put in which order you should talk about them because they all intertwine. You got to figure out what you want to scout, self-scout and opponent scout. You got to put it in the call sheet and plan it. You got to put it in a practice plan. But I know practice kind of to us was the most important thing. So we did that last time. And now this time we're going to talk about game plan. And getting ready for this, just kind of thought, okay, what were the things that we wrote down is what we had to do when we game planned that I thought was helpful. I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm not a fan of the come in on Sunday and make a bunch of crap up, because what you saw, like, hey, coach, if we get in this formation and we run a post corner and we pump fake and we look left and the running back fakes jet, then we'll probably get somebody up. I'm not doing all that. So when I was looking at the other team, you'll see we're just a few basic things, and we'll get to that. I think the key is focus on you more than your opponent. Guys, this is so hard to do, but such common sense. You just played a game that you controlled every aspect of offensively. You're the offensive coordinator, the head coach, or whatever, and you just played a game last night, Saturday morning. You just played a game. You coached those kids. You worked with them all week. You called the plays, whatever. And it's like people let it run one time and they're done with that film and they're watching their opponents. You don't have any say over your opponents. You don't have any idea what they're going to run next week. You don't have any idea what they're doing. You don't have any control over that. You control your own team. So it doesn't mean you just shouldn't be ignorant. I'm not advocating don't worry about your opponents or focus on them. But if you are spending more time watching your opponents than watching that film from last night, you're cheating those kids. The self-scout is the best thing. I mean, and we talked to you before about accountability. And when we went through positions, we talked about these were the things we looked for. If we had a bad fake, we were going to run. If we, did this, we were going to run. If we did this, we were going to run. And that's what we were looking for in self-scout. I mean, we wanted to look at what we were doing. And I think you got to obviously look at your self-scout in terms of what plays you're calling and all that. But I'm really just talking about grading the film, like watching the film, finding things the kids did wrong, and trying to correct them. And ask yourself, was it their fault or was it my fault? I'll probably get into that more in the next session. But that first point is really important. If you turn this on thinking I was going to tell you the magic formula to figure out what defense they're in, you're going to be mistaken. I would never add anything without a purpose. And here's what I mean by that. If we added a play on the weekend, so say we're in game, we're pretending right now, we're in game 4. Game 3 just ended last night. We're in game 4 this coming week. It's Saturday. It's Sunday. We're getting ready for the week. Game 4. Why would you put something in just to put it in? Why would you watch Alabama play or Georgia or Auburn or whoever and say, hey, they run something like that? I mean, that's just not good football. And get better at what you're running. Or you need a better base plan. In that case, you just got to kind of go there. But you got to have a good base plan. And if you put something in, it needs to have a purpose. It needs to be like, hey, we've run 11 of these in a row, and they've all been decent plays, and we like to play, but we haven't run one counter off of that because we don't have anything in that's a counter off of that. And we didn't anticipate this play being so good. But we ran it 11 times last week. Probably need something off of it. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. You got a really good player. You got just a dang good wideout, and you're like, we need one play to get this guy the ball. Put it in. I mean, I'm not against putting stuff in for the week, but it needed to have a purpose. Somebody walked up to you and said, why did we put this play in? It needs to be like, bam, everybody knows the answer. It doesn't need to be like, well, you know, I mean, just kind of needed something out of that. Nah, if you start that sentence like that, throw it out. It won't be any good. Focus on players more than plays. That's about your team, but also the other team. When you're game planning, think about your team, think about their team, think about what your quarterback can do, but also think about who's on their team. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And if you do get in the habit of thinking, man, we struggled last week, say game 3, we lost, we struggled, now it's game 4, and you do think you need a change up, always think first formation, shifts, motions. Then think plays. I mean, don't come in and say, man, we sucked at buck sweep this week. We just can't run buck sweep anymore. We're just not good enough at it. Our guards can't pull. We can't block down. Whatever it is, you convince yourself of that, and then you just say to hell with it. Think, how can we get it? How can we get this out of better formation? How can we trade the tight end? How can we shift over to it? How can we send motion away to it? Is there something we can do to make this play better than it's been the last week? And sometimes the answer is no, and you do have to change, but always do that last. All right, this is a call sheet we would build. Everybody should have access to this in the documents on the website, and you can download it and edit it, type in how you want. It's just what I use. So offensive call sheet versus whoever. You can't really see, but in Excel, it's an Excel document. So if you download it, it'll be in Excel, and there's little boxes here, and you type it in, and basically there's 9 on each side of these for drive starters. You know, it'd be 1, 2, 3. You could type in there. I tried to keep to 6 on each side. I found that the middle, I used to have 3 columns, left hash, middle, and right hash. But the middle hash is there's some certain plays I really like in the middle, and if I like them in the middle, I may would put an M by or designated or something if I only wanted to run it in the middle. But most plays you like in the middle, you can live with on a hash. But that's not true the other way around. So if I put a really good play in the middle and we just never got to it sometimes because we stayed on the hash or whatever, I eventually just kind of put that line down the middle, and I looked at the call sheet as if the ball was on the left hash, I'm looking at the left side of my call sheet. You know, I just tried to, I mean, you just got in the habit of that. That was easy to me. Everything kind of had a purpose. So I think the drive starters are really important. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I like the drive starters up here. Basically, we spent most of the week working the drive starters. I'll talk about that in a minute. Base plays would obviously been every base. I mean, that could have been anything. You see buck sweep, inside run, outside run, drop pass play. But it was something we liked versus that team. Because to make this clear to you, on the back side of the call sheet, I was basically going to have the all-time play list, just in case I needed to see it. But these were going to be plays I really thought we were going to call. So we were going to run buck sweep. I just put out there the best 4 or 5 formations on each hash I like buck sweep out of. And then you get down here to situations that we had 2 to 3 plays on each hash for long yardage, medium yardage, short yardage, red zone, backed up, goal line. You know, you can see that. I'm not going to sort through intelligence. But I started with this. It's not earth shattering. Maybe you do too. But if you don't, if you're just watching the film and just writing down some plays you want to run, you might get to 70 or 80 plays before you know it, to be honest. The key is start with this. And you say, man, I'd like to run more than 4 buck sweeps. Well, of course you would. But you can only practice so much. So we put this stuff in, and that's how we practice it. If we're in game 4 in this hypothetical webinar today, and in game 4, I decide we're going to run bunch out of buck sweep out of bunch. We run it 2 or 3 times. It works. We call it more. Buck sweep's just working in general. And later in the game, we call another formation that we didn't practice all week. Guess what, guys? They'll be okay. If they suck at buck sweep, it's not going to matter what formation you call. If they're good at it, it's not going to matter what formation you call, if you get my drift there. So you worry about getting good at the play, these 4 good buck sweeps. If it starts popping and you need to change formation, no big deal, man. In building a call sheet, we looked at these 3 things, which I kind of already talked about, but I'm going to go in a little more detail now. On the drive starters, these were plays that I thought we were going to call in the first play of drive. I picked one of them almost every time. I'm not going to say it always happened. Every now and then you just get later in the game and pick something else or whatever. But traditionally, every time we started the drive, we were going to call these. And sometimes even on regular 1st and 10s. Sometimes even on, you know, like we started the drive, we got a 12-yard gain, and then I'd call another. Drive started to me didn't always mean it had to be the first drive, but it was usually a 1st and 10. It was always a 1st and 10. Shouldn't say usually. It was always a 1st and 10 play. It was usually the first play to drive. And we just found a huge success rate when the drive started well. So, and think about it from a defensive coach perspective. You know, they're going to come out, they're going to talk about the stuff they worked on. So for us, they're going to work on buck sweep, they're going to work on throwing the bubble, or throwing the screens and throwing verticals. And so they're all about that. So we come out in the drive starter and we just, you know, we shift and run some play off of buck sweep. I'm not saying they were all earth-shattering plays. We're all trick plays. But it was something that we thought that would get them. Then you kind of get them, and then it's 2nd down, or it's 1st down again because you got more than 10 yards. And then I go into the base play mode. In my mind, now I'm running power read. We're running the hitches and the screens. We're running the regular stuff, verticals, that we always, the stuff that we talked about in the series that was just base plays, horizontal plays, vertical plays, sweep, plays off a sweep. That's all we're running. So if you're playing this on 2nd down, you're probably going to get that. The situational plays, obviously, you know, we're situational. You know, I'm not, if you made it this far in this course, you don't need me telling you what that is. But I could go down the call sheet. I'm going to back up again. Like I could kind of start up here at the top and say, all right, 1st down. Base plays 1st or 2nd down. Situations 3rd down. Now, if we get into the red zone, or if we're back to, I can just kind of move my eyes down over there now. But, you know, we kind of kept that mantra, and I just kept going up and going that way. What did I want to do? You know, and so it was like 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd and 4th down. Now, I told you in the course earlier, one thing I always liked is I knew if I was going for it on 4th down. So if I was going to go for it on 4th down, then maybe 3rd down becomes up here, and this is 4th down. Because if you know you're going for it on 4th down, 4th down is 3rd down, and 3rd down's not 3rd down anymore. When I talk about situational, long yardage, medium yardage, short yardage plays, that means if they don't work, you're punting, or the other team's getting the ball, or whatever it is. So if you know you're going for it on 4th down, you don't necessarily have to call one of these plays. I think that's a common mistake that people make, and they mess up on both plays. You know, they throw the comeback out on 3rd and 8. It's incomplete. And then on 4th and 8, they call it again because they don't have anything else to call. And they knew they were going for it. They'd have been better off to just, on 3rd and 8, call a 2nd and 8 play, then seen what happened on 4th down. You know, see where it was. May not have been 4th and 8 in that case. Might have been 4th and 3 or 4th and 4 or whatever. So we get that. This is what we focused on for drive starters. So think of 3 things: drive starters, base plays, situational. Drive starters should be plays that get a 1st down if they're executed properly. And if we called one of these 12 plays we set up, we tried to make 12 plays a week, practice them every day, we're going to be good at these. They weren't always trick plays. Every now and then it was a trick play, but it was like, we're going to run it this way. Do it. 12 of those plays, we're going to be those. I ain't always get all 12 of them in, but I try. Should be plays that get a 1st down if executed properly. Show the defense coordinator something he hasn't seen. Go play action. I love play action on these drive starts. I love the halfback pass, double pass, whatever. I'm not saying we only had like 2 in out of the 12 maybe that were really unique special. But if we were even going to just throw a little bubble or a swing pass, something cute that we hadn't really done much of, we're going to come out the gate doing it. You know, we're going to come out the gate doing it because I just believe these drive starters is where it's at. Good time to run a base play with shift for unique formation. And, you know, you can obviously get these plays outside of drive starting plays. All right, base plays. So now we're back to this. Now it's say we ran the drive starter. Now we're kicking. It's 2nd and 2. It's, you know, we got the 1st down. Now it's 1st and 10 again. Whatever. We're going to run a regular plays. Sweep. Plays off the sweep. The horizontal and the vertical game. Basically, that's it. One of those 4 groups of plays. We can call them anytime. These are our best plays. This is the stuff they practice. The stuff they know they've seen the most on film. So now we're really getting into taking into account players on both teams. And when you talk about game planning, you always take into account players on both teams. I mean, especially like an outside backer, at defensive end, places where there's sides at corner, where there's sides of the field. Is one better than the other one? And if it is, you got to go there. Have the if then plan ready. Like, what if we don't like our base plan? And that's what I mean. So what if we put on the call sheet, we're going to run bunch, buck sweep all week. and we get in the game and they're just killing the bunch. The bunch is just bad. Then don't run it. I mean, run something else. You still run buck sweep, run something else. Have your if-then plan ready. On the back of the call sheet, I usually kept all the buck sweeps, all the jets, so I can just kind of flip it over and say, oh, yeah, maybe that one will work. You know, because that happens. When you get into the situational stuff, and I'll kind of tell you what I was thinking on that. When you get to long yardage, you know, we try to keep 2-3 plays a hash. And by hash, I mean both hashes, because middle we can do either. So how about 6 total plays, 8 plus to go. Have a plan to go for it and a plan to play safe. So meaning I feel like those 6 plays on each hash, you need to have something that allows you to get the first down, like a comeback, any of the plays we had in long yardage. You can go back and watch that if you want to know what all the plays we used. But and then also maybe some kind of screen or some kind of draw or something that you're like, man, now it's 3rd and 13. We really don't need to do anything stupid here. Let's just call this. You kind of need both. You need to know if they're a blitzing team or not. And that's one of the things you're looking at in scouting. We'll get to the individual other team in a minute while you're looking at building this call sheet. And I think first you got to know what I'm trying to get out of this call sheet before you can even watch the other team play. Are they going to blitz? Is this a team that when it's 3rd and long, they're bringing some heat every time? Doesn't mean they're going against you, but you need to know that. They are. You call plays accordingly. Medium yardage, 4 to 7 to go. All plays on the call sheet should get the ball to first down. This is a pet peeve of making this work on the call sheet. Look, keep in mind, look at that note at the bottom that says you can always call base plays in these situations if it seems more likely to work. Look, so if I put 3 medium yardages on each hash, that didn't mean I called one of those 6 plays every medium yardage. Absolutely not. Sometimes we just call buck sweeper. I called a play that I like. You know, it's okay to get off the script. I scripted the plays that I was only going to call in medium yards. I hope that makes sense. We scripted the stuff on the call sheet that we were only going to call in that situation. So we practiced it in that situation. It's not one of our main things. We're going to run this 5 out. We're going to run this little mesh play. We're going to run whatever, and we're just going to try to get them open. We're going to throw it. We're going to get the first down. But if the key to these medium yardage plays is call them in those scenarios and make sure you design plays that if the ball is completed, which it was usually a pass in this if we scripted it, that it's a first down. I wouldn't throw a swing pass in medium yardage. I just wouldn't, unless that was off script. I wouldn't have scripted it. Let's put it that way. I was going to script something I thought got a first down. Swing pass, you rolling the dice. Swing pass, second down, call it. Or swing passes, you call it on 3rd down because you're 1,000,000% sure. But you didn't practice that all week because you weren't 1,000,000% during the week. Sure that was going to work. So I hope that's making sense to everybody's listening, because on your call sheet, you need to just have a couple of plays from each hash you really like in that situation. And if you end up not liking them as the game goes on or not calling them, that's okay. The base plays are always open. They're always available. Then we get to short yardage, same thing. I mean, a lot of times short yardage, we're just calling a regular play. But we had these 2 or 3 plays we only called in short yardage, and, of course, they were always available. I like in short yardage changes to shift, to use a formation, to change the tempo, hard count them, whatever. And that was the change-up. Still running the regular. Field zone, same thing. I always thought in the red zone, you know, we talked about some of this when we got into our situational play session of this. But I thought in the red zone, you know, plays and formation should be unique. So, like, we would do something where, like, if we were running empty, just straight up empty, 5 wide, 3 on one side, 2 on the other, out wide, and we just start moving the ball, and for some reason we just kind of hang in it. When we got into the red zone, we might change the formation. We might even do it 1 play too early sometimes. We may look at it honestly, because we wanted to stay ahead of that. We wanted to, now we're going to get bunt because we're in the red zone, maybe we can pop something and score. You know, we want to change the formation a little bit. It's something we just didn't. I like bunch in the red zone. I like bunch in 3rd down, 4th down sometimes, because I thought it was something different. And we tried not to call it the rest of the time if we get away. Goal line, easy, heavier formations, change the mindset. You know, everybody works goal line. Nothing special there. Same thing, though, if you want to get on the goal line and run your regular play, if you think it'll work and you run it fast, nothing wrong with that. But have a couple of plays you just run down there, just practice down there that you think will work. And backed up, kind of the same thing. Keep in mind when you're backed up, I always have a note on there like hard count them. I hard count them every time backed up. If you're on the 1 yard line Why would you not hard count? I mean, if you jump off sides, you go back 6 inches. If they jump off sides, now you're not backed up anymore. So always hard count them when you're backed up. That's an easy one. The game situations, and we tried to be cognizant of these and really work it. Sudden change play or swing, called a swing play. We always had one on each hash. That was usually, if it wasn't a trick play, it was like, let's throw it as far as we can. Let's make something happen, man. So we block a field goal. We go out, we get an interception. That's a sudden change. Now we're going out there. We're going to take a shot. Does it mean we always did? No, not always. But a lot of times. I mean, at least once a game or something. If we could find a sudden change, that's a good time to take a shot. They're tired. They're beat down. They're frustrated. Something bad's happened for them. Go jump on. 4-minute offense. Does anything have to change? Not really. There's a long description I got in the documents about 4-minute offense, 2-minute offense, that kind of stuff. Does something have to change? Not really. Not really. If you sometimes have a new formation, like what is 4-minute offense? Not trying to insult anybody's intelligence, but 4-minute offense is, we got the ball and we got the lead late in the game. So sometimes if you got a formation, say you got double tight, you like double tight. It's pretty good. For whatever reason, you called it all game. You get in double tight, maybe you get extra first down. Or you hadn't run bunch all game, so you run bunch in 4 minutes. Don't change the plays. Change the formations. Run your regular stuff, what got you here. Slow it down. What I did in 4 minutes was I hard counted every play. So we hard count them, and then they don't jump, which they never do because we did it every play at that point. But then I call the play. So now it's a regular tempo for the kids. Kids are used to that. So we're not standing there with a stopwatch pointing at them and all that. We're just playing regular ball. I always thought that made the kids play a little better. 2-minute offense, I'll tell you a couple keys on that is you need you about two 2-minute offense formations. And you need and maybe 2 right and left, so 4 total. But I wouldn't change the formation until the clock stops. So like for us, if we were in Frank, empty right, we run a play, we get 8 yards, but the play moved the ball to the right hash. Now I'm going to have a play I like out of Frank on the right hash, which is into the boundary. Not ideal, but we're going to have something we like there because if you change the formation, kids have to run across the field. That's going to slow you down. So you practice in that mode. So really with 2 minutes for us, we always kind of had the ability to play fast. So it wasn't really practicing playing fast. We kind of could tell the kids, let's go. I call the plays faster, they run it faster. What was more for the play caller on me, one calling the plays faster, but being cognizant of we can't run strength right and then strength left and then strength right and then strength left. Even though we think it'll work, you got to wait till the clock stops. So we throw an incompletion, we get out of bounds. Even if we got a first down, now you can change formation. But until then, don't. 2-point play obviously goes without saying, but some people don't always understand the concept, which would be you always play that play like it's 4th and 3. I mean, just whatever you would call there, that's what you call. And then all the last play stuff, the Hail Marys, the whatever that you see. Back to the call sheet, I put it up there again just so we can see it after we talked about it and kind of see. We placed all that stuff in there. Yeah. Anybody got a question about that before we talk about the other team? All right, so now we're talking. So now you understand what we're trying to build with the call sheet. Then, now you can understand. Okay, we're going to watch this other thing. We're going to see how we're going to get that stuff built in that call sheet. As I watch the other team defensively, this is an offensive course, so we're only talking about our offense versus their defense. I mean, if these were percentages, about 82% of these 4 bullets is the first one. Who flashed and got your attention? I mean, watch the film. Who looks like a football player? If it's the same person over and over, that's a problem. It's really that simple, guys. One of the reasons I love this offense, and I'm biased, and that's why I'm pushing it. That's why I'm trying to sell it to other people, and I don't even mean money-wise, just sell you on this is good, help you, is I love doing this. Right now, I'm up at the district office, not coaching. I still like being involved. But when we did this, it was great for us because we could go both ways with about every play, having those two backs. Even if one was better than the other, yeah, we wanted to run this one a little more than this one. But honestly, when they had a really, and we saw teams in Hart, I don't know how you guys have it in where you are, but here we saw so many teams with one really good outside linebacker and one really bad one really good DN, one really bad one. So it was just so simple sometimes. People's like, man, coach, you call some good plays. I was like, well, I pretty much just looked for number 14 and just ran away from him. So that was real ingenious of me. We had some whole games where we did that. I can remember a game in way back 2010 or 11, Chapel Hill. We played a team. I'm not going to name them, but they just didn't swap sides. That one guy was left defensive end, the other guy was right. And the guy that was our right defensive end, he was just dang good. And he probably had 5 sacks a week for him. The guy was good. Watched it all week. We literally ran left every play. Every play. I mean, we threw the ball a few times, but I mean, every run on the edge went left. Every jet, every buck went left the whole game. They never moved him. He didn't make a tackle all night. We played a team in last year that had a really good outside linebacker, and the other guy wasn't very good. They kept trying to guess. Now, they did move him. He wasn't right and left. They put him to strength, and they put him to the field, and they put him to bound. I mean, just let them line up. Every time we ran the sweep, we just called it away from them. Really that simple. And it probably, I don't know that won us a game. We won by a lot, but it helped. You need to know your opponents, guys. Let me tell you a key thing that always was helpful for me. Do you have to know that, what I just said, all that rant I just went on? You have to know all that on Saturday morning? You have to know all that on Sunday morning? You have to know all that on Monday or Tuesday morning? The answer to all that is no. You do have to figure out what you want to run, but as far as who's better than who and what side you want to run it to and all that, hey, you figure that out all week. So one of the things I didn't make a little slide about, but now I kind of wish I would have, was something to keep in mind is what has to be done in the weekend and what can be done all week. And what has to be done in the weekend is you got to get that call sheet built so you can practice that stuff. Now, as far as when you're going to call it, to what person you're going to call it to, do we like it more right or left or some of that stuff, you got all week. I felt like there was this rush to get this may have just been my problem, but I feel like when I first was calling plays a lot, it was just rushed to get everything done by Monday morning so we could practice it all week. And then you kind of sat on your hands, the rest of the week because you didn't barely sleep Saturday, Sunday, Monday, getting it ready. And now it was kind of the opposite toward the end of my time. I just watched enough to know what was up. We were going to run our stuff. I watched enough to build the call sheet, knew what front they were in, generally knew kind of the general things, built the call sheet based on that, had enough flexibility in the call sheet that we could have changed it. And then all week I watch stuff, and then we just say, man, I'll tell you what, this is really going to be good out of this formation. Or if we can get them here, y'all remind me to call this. And I could do all that as the week went on. The kids didn't need to know that. So basically, here's the rule. And this is the thing to write down if you don't have a slide to show you. If the kids need to know it, put it in before Monday. If the kids need to know it, spend your time on that on the weekend. If the kids don't really need to know, it's really the play caller that needs to know. Because the kids don't need to know we're running away from number 14. They really don't. Then maybe you got all week to figure that out. So use your time wisely on Wednesday night, Thursday night, whenever you got a little extra time. Make it useful. But don't kill yourself on Saturday and Sunday. Some of that stuff is just a little overblown. You need to know these few things. I like to chart who made the tackle, who made the play, or make somebody else do it if I didn't do it. I wanted to know who made the tackle. Guys, there's just kids that play defense can't make tackles. Not on good teams, not on really good teams anyway, but there are some guys. You need to know if the same guys make it, the same few people make the play all the time. And I said tackle / play because it might be the same guy that got a PBU or calls a fumble or something. It didn't always have to be a tackle, but you get the idea. Obviously you want to know how they lined up to things, to your formations. So I'll tell you something I think people missed the boat on. And goes back to that point one there. I can't tell you how many times people said something to me like, hey, they call me and they want to film. Hey, coach, you send us the film with you and whoever. Yeah, sure, whatever. They're like, we got 4 films and I ain't watched any of them because they're all against under center teams, or they're all against wing T teams, or they're all against spread, whatever they're, Guys, if you're watching only to see how they line up to your formation, you're kind of missing the point of the film. The film is to tell you who's better than who. You have no freaking idea how they're going to line up to your formations. You're guessing, you're making an educated guess, but maybe y'all have a better experience than I have, but we got defense of the week a lot. We practice this one thing, get something totally different in the game. So, I mean, I was way more worried about who was a player. And even though we were in the gun and empty and all that, if somebody ran the wishbone, I'll watch that defense and see who made plays. Now, does it help you line up their formation? No, it doesn't. But remember, number 1 was who flashed and got your attention. Number 2 was who made the play. And now number 3 is how you line up your formation. So, yeah, I totally get wanting to see some teams that run stuff like you. Not trying to blame people for that. But if you're not even watching the other films, you're kind of missing something there. What have they done different by situation? If you can catch something, I put this at the bottom on purpose because these things are in order of importance probably, and for me anyway. And then what have you done situationally? Like if you pick up something on 3rd down, or you pick up something in the red zone or goal line or whatever, then obviously that's something you'll likely see again because teams don't really scheme for the weak situation. They could, but they usually don't. Like if they got a goal line defense, you're probably gonna see some variation. Anybody got a question about any of that? I thought those were the big questions. I put these in the little questions. Meaning after you can figure out the answer to those 4 questions, maybe ask yourself these 3. Did they ever put the strength in the boundary? The answer is a lot of teams is no, or you haven't seen them. If they don't put the strength to the boundary, make them put the strength into the boundary. Find a formation into the boundary and hammer their ass until they put the strength into the boundary. That's the key, man. I'll tell you that one question won us a lot of games. How good are the corners? Which one's better? You need to know. Easiest way to get an explosive play in high school is take a shot. And a lot of times the shot you're taking is on a corner. Even if it's a safety that rolled down, you're still throwing sometimes on a post or some of that corner. If there's one guy you can beat, you only get so many chances to really pop this thing in a high school game. Explosive plays are so important. So if you kind of waste one by being on the wrong hash and calling it at the wrong time, or, you caught against the wrong corner or whatever, you just only get this a few chances to make these plays. So if you want to score 40 points, man, you got to take advantage of these 5 or 6 times you got a chance to score. And we always sat down with the whole staff and talked about each position group. Was one guy better than the other one? What do you think about this guy? And I know Bo's on here like he always is to moderate, and Bo can attest that we just didn't spend a ton of time talking about if they were squeezing or if they were punching or if they were stuffing technique. I mean, we figured that out during the week and stuff, but I wasn't worried about if this one time against Trips 3 weeks ago they ran it. Whatever. We spent most of our time talking about who is a good player. And I don't even know if this is a fair thing to admit in this time, but Bo can justify or back me up on this. But I was more like a Madden rating guy, like when I was a kid, teenager, college kid, Madden was coming out, it's in the 90s. Somebody was a 99, they were a 74, they were a 63, you know what I mean? So I understood that, and I'd be like, all right, so how good is this kid? How does he compare to the kid we played last week there? How does he compare to the guy on the other side? How does he compare to the guys on our team? And you kind of get a feel for who can play and who can't and go from there. Make sure the call sheet matches the practice plan, guys. I think this is another key mistake. And you kind of you get your call sheet done, and then you kind of get your practice plan done, and truthfully there's not that overlap there should be. You should take the call sheet and literally cut and paste the things into those periods. So like we did that, I went to, like last time we talked about these sheets, That's the total playlist. You can still click. If you go into the PowerPoint of this, you can't click the screen right now, I'm sure. But if you go into the PowerPoint, click that, it'll come up, or it'll come up in your documents. That's by play group. And then that's what we did last time we talked about practice. So I'm going to take that call sheet once I fill everything in, and all the pass plays on the left hash are going right there. All the pass plays in the middle are going right there. All the pass plays on the right hash are going right there. All the jet sweeps are going right there. All the buck sweeps are going. You see what I'm saying? This is how we're building this thing. I'm going to make sure them drive starters are basically in this team with some situational stuff. You know, so if we're doing short yardage that week, maybe there's not a lot of short yardage stuff in team, but it's there. But everything on that call sheet is going to be in this practice script. This needs to match that. And what I did was I literally just took a Sharpie and scratched through stuff as I put it in there. That's simple. Now, you made the practice script. You made the call sheet. You go into practice on Monday. These are things to ask yourself all week also. So now the kids don't need to know these things. It fits in that mantra. So what's our second half plan? What do I mean by that? Like, say we're come out the gate playing well. We got a pretty good plan. We're moving the ball, but they kind of stall. You just get stale because you only got so many things. What can we go to in the second half? For us, we're going to run a lot of inside zone. We're going to, maybe we weren't going to run a ton of buck sweep in the first half, knowing that they were going to be geeked up on that. We're going to do some different things. And when they got tired, we're going to hammer on a buck sweep. I didn't always even write this on the call sheet. We just kind of talked about, all right, well, let's just say we come out playing well. We're ahead. We're down by a touchdown. We're up by a touchdown, whatever. And the plan's going well, but it just kind of stalls out. We need to kind of spring something on them in the second half. What do we got? Are we ready for the if-then plan? That's what I mean by if-then is, do we have all the plays? So we plan on running power read against these guys. We're ready all week for it. And then for whatever reason, the safety is just flying in the alley and teeing off on us. But we've got to call Kerry and Viper to play action plays off of that, even if we didn't practice. Even if we didn't anticipate calling it out of that formation. We wanted to run Viper out of this formation, but they don't roll down out of this formation. They're only rolling down. Then we got a better call. So do you have that ready? Are you ready to call it if necessary? Can the kids run it because they understand the base offense well enough? Who's going in for each starter if injured or something? I mean, this is simple talk here. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. But what does changing the quarterback do to the call sheet? So I always thought you kind of needed a backup quarterback call sheet or something, or at least a little part of the call sheet on the back or something where you're like, all right, we got our backup in there, what we do. I was fortunate a couple of times to have backups that we didn't change a thing. They were good ball players. And then other times you're putting that kid in and being like, man, the call sheet went from a Waffle House menu to an index card. And that's okay. Just got to know what you got. When you are executing a plan in general, now I'm getting on my general off of the offense rant and back into the leadership rant. There's a couple of things to keep in mind. Because you're going to come up with this game plan. It's going to work sometimes, and sometimes it's not. The key to being successful in really anything is being right about 60, 70% of the time. It's not about being right 100% of the time. And you got to do a little better than 51% if you want to be successful. But, you're going to be wrong a lot too. The key is how you handle being wrong. And so these three things always stick out to me to tell people, to coach people. I talk about kids, adults, CEOs, custodians, anybody in between. When you have a plan for something, don't get your feelings hurt. Change your plan if you need to. It's okay. Don't panic because you have to change it. And show some confidence. Act like it's the greatest plan you've ever seen in your life. And when you have to change it, act like changing it's the greatest thing you've ever done in your life. If you can, those way easier said than done, way easier to make a PowerPoint on that than it is to do it. But that is such a key to being successful as a play caller. Can't get your feelings hurt. You got to play the next play. You got to change the plan when you have to. And you got to show confidence. You got to show confidence even when you're down by 14, even when you ran this, you called a perfect play and you could drop the ball or whatever it is. Show confidence. Move forward. Does anybody have a question about any of the game plan and stuff?
Coach, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
I had to step off for a minute. My head coach was calling me about the changes with Georgia High School, so I apologize for missing some of the sessions.
No problem. We're recording, so you can go back and watch.
When it came down to the call sheet that I just stepped back into, how often did you change your call sheet throughout the week to get ready for the game on Friday or the practice plan?
That's a good question. I tried not to. You know, the cute answer would be never. You know, because you make it. We're gonna run this. That's not realistic. I mean, we did change it, but I'll tell you what I changed. I didn't change much as far as the plays. I did change the form. Like I would watch all week, and I used to be in ISS back in the day. I sit in ISS, I'm watching, and I'm just like, man, this would really be better out of bunch than out of some tight end set. We get the same feel, but because there's not a tight end, they play it different. And you just kind of get a feel, and you're like, you know. So then you had it in there to run out of what we call red, and you say, oh, that ain't gonna work. Just run out of green. Or you say, man, I'll tell you what would be great is if we trade a tight end out of this, or if we, well, you know, you just kind of jot something down, and you go to practice, say, hey, and then just kind of scratch out the other one and put this in and see if it works. You know, I didn't like to change the drive starters. You know, we kind of picked out these 6 plays on each hash we really loved all week. And, of course, we would change it, but we didn't want to. Usually if we change one of those, it's because we ran it practice and God, it was awful, you know, because that happened too. But better I got, Coach, and this is probably the way to think of this. The times when I had to change a bunch of stuff during the week to get ready for the game rarely worked, and it usually meant we were going to lose on Friday, whether that was we were not prepared or they were really good. That honestly, the older I got, the less times that happened. The older I got, it was 1 or 2 games a year where you felt like, we really – on Wednesday, you're still trying to say, we really should have done this, really should have done that. Really. Because a lot of times you're just scrambling. If you're really confident in what you do, you worry about you, and then maybe you tweak it with a shift or a formation or something, but, you know, you're going to run your stuff. What you'll learn the longer you coach, and it's true for everybody, not just Coach Dick, but the longer you coach, the more you realize that you've probably been better off just running regular plays anyway. You know, I mean, and just call them at the right time, get them the right formation, getting the kids better at them, whatever. That coming up with stuff rarely works. Or different. That's just my experience. Maybe it works for other people. Anybody else?
Yeah, Coach, real quick, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this, but you had your second half plan up there. But can you, go through a quick, your plan during halftime organizationally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I really didn't do a ton. I mean, I love to tell you again that I had this magical halftime plan, but we tried to get the kids off as quick as possible. We tried to be real organized with getting the kids off the field and into the locker room. Of course, at home games, that was easier than away. I thought the quicker we could get them in there, fine. We'd get them in there. We'd have managers ready to get them water, Powerade, or maybe even a snack or something if we had it. And all that was super organized. Tried to be. What we did with the kids and coaching stuff was really fluid. And it really did turn into, like Coach Dixon asked about changing. You know, I probably changed more stuff at halftime than I changed during the week. You know, sometimes we go in there at halftime and you say, you know, you think Johnny can he just crack now instead of stalking? Like, can we get him to do that? We've done it a couple of weeks, but man, I'm telling you. And then you just pull him in there and say, hey, you know, can you? And so it really, what we would generally do is every kids are in the locker room. We would kind of group up by offense, defense. Since we're talking about offense, offensive coaches are together, and we're, you know, it's just kind of like, what you seen, what do you think? Now, this got way easier with the iPads and stuff, Coach. And I know you know that. This is not near as important as it used to be honest. Because usually by halftime, I already know. I mean, we already got it. Back in the day, we needed more input than we probably do now. But we still do the same routine where it's just, you know, well, what do you see, what do you think? You know, I'll be honest, you know, 1 out of every 10 things somebody said was helpful. I felt like at halftime, a lot of times it was a bunch of nothing. But you do think of something, and, you know, we left the kids alone for, you know, 5-6 minutes anyway. And then we'd usually go in there and group them up, O-line coach and the skill guy. We probably went in 2 groups a lot, you know, like O-line and the backs and receivers, and talk to them, remind them. I like giving the kids 2-3 things to worry about at halftime, not some litany of stuff, you know, just like, hey, you know, we got to come – this is going to be important right here. We got to go. And I just – when the games went really well for us, we had that second half plan. And a lot of times for us, it was buck sweep, just to be honest. A lot of times it was one of our best plays. Mm-hmm. But people loved – when you scouted us, we had run so many of them that people just came out the gate like geeked up for that buck sweep, like that outside backer's just trying to take you out if you block down, and they're spinning off down blocks. I mean, they're geeked up. So you come out the gate throwing play action, throwing a screen. I mean, I threw a ton of screens early in the game, through hitches. You know, we're running some of our cute runs, you know, we're reading different people and whatever. And then we get to halftime, 14-10 or 21-17 or whatever it was. And we were like, all right, boys, these boys kind of tired. And I don't know if y'all's kids are different than mine, but when our kids got a little tired on defense, they wasn't as keen on listening to what we told them. You know, they wasn't as keen on that stuff you worked all week. They weren't quite as keen on. So that one step on that buck sweep wasn't quite as good as it was that first time of the game we ran it and everybody got all geeked up because they hit us in the mouth.
Right.
So it was a lot of like, hey, we got to get back to fundamental. We're going to come out, we're going to run the ball. You're going to have a great down block. We're going to need you to pull into the line, get your head inside. You know, whoever you were talking to is like, hey, we're about to come out. Here's what we're going to do. But I think you go back to that last slide, to be honest. To be honest, Coach, this is what we tried to do at halftime. We tried to not get our feelings hurt, positive or negative, because feelings can go both ways, you know. We weren't going to sit there and pat ourselves on the back either, is what I mean.
Right.
Well, you know, neither. Then we're going to say, okay, do we need to change? Yes or no? Because if we do, let's not lose the game because we're being hard-headed. And if nothing else, we're going to walk in that locker room and tell them kids we got the greatest damn plan that's ever come about, and we're about to kick their ass in the second half. And I mean, and even if we didn't know it or believe it ourselves, you know. And I think that was the mantra, and then we were gone, boom. You know, so after we met with them as linemen and backs and receivers, we bring the whole team together, give a rant or two, then go on. Is that about right, Bo? I mean, don't let me lie on anybody here. I think your mic's off, Bo.
Yeah, I'd say that's you know, I'd say that's a pretty good summation of it. I think you know, we did have individual talks with wide receivers, you know, or running backs or whatever, and could give them specific critiques that way. But nobody, you know, nobody came in there and got too hyped up. And usually we tried to, whether we were or not, we tried to at least show the kids that we were confident in what we were going to do in the second half, and whether it was coming from behind or finishing.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. We we'll have to you know, Bo was usually getting yelled at about that punt team too. Best teams. But I think that it was important to correct on the run more than ever been, Coach. It's really more important than it's ever been to correct on the run and not wait to halftime. I mean, yeah, we tried to – I think halftime was more about refocusing, recentering than it is adjusting. You got to make your adjustment here and there, but like I think I said this in the last session, but you know, people used to tell us we were a decent second half. We always had really good third quarters, and people ask me all the time, what'd you tell them at halftime? And I was like, I told them to get some water. I don't know what I told them. If I'd have told them, if I'd have known what to tell them, hell, I wouldn't wait till halftime to tell them. You know, I'd have told them the whole game. Sometimes you got to hang in there and have your kids ready to play all 4 quarters, and it just starts working better as the game goes on. You know, we can give up on the plan too often. But that's what it was.